Hey friend, Megan here. There is a miracle in the jungle. My microphone finally works. I did an update for iMovie and I have audio again. So hopefully that means that I'll be doing some more videos. So today I'm going to share that I am in a new setting. My family and I moved to the Cloud Forest in Peru, just a few hours outside of the Sacred Valley where we used to live. It has been a crazy journey. We're basically like 30 minutes from Machu Picchu now. We are surrounded by the most lush greenery I have ever seen in my life, and it's right in the middle of the rainy season. We kind of moved like maybe 2 days before the really intense rain started, so we were very, very lucky to get the sort of open air Peruvian trucks out here. It was, for our friends and family, there were many, many delays, sort of Peru-style divine timing delays that pushed us back months. So one of them was that our little son, our baby, 2 years old, Julian, got sick, very, very sick. He got an amoebic dysentery, an amoeba that made amoebic dysentery, which means he was basically pooping blood for like a week and a half, and he was hospitalized and dehydrated because trying to get fluids into a little baby is challenging. So we delayed the move by about a month, maybe a month and a half, and then we started sort of like packing. We were packing in the meantime, and had found this place months and months ago, but there were just lots of delays around trucks and strikes and cancellations. But to give people a little sense of where we're at, because I've been kind of vague on sort of friends and family posts, we're in the Quillabamba Valley. It's basically, there's a main road that runs through the Sacred Valley. You continue that towards the Abra Malaga Pass, towards Quillabamba. So right after you kind of go up over this completely wild, maybe the hardest but most beautiful road I think that exists on the planet. It is super windy for just hours and hours as it winds and sort of curves around each mountain, in and out of like the little sub-valleys. And it's this huge climb up until you're like looking straight at Apu Veronica, and you're pretty much like right next to the glacier. It's just mist as far as you can see in like this brush grass, and then you sort of descend, and the temperature difference is like 30 degrees, and you sort of just drop into this. Kind of reminds me of like The Land Before Time, if anybody has ever seen that movie. And it's just a beautiful part of the valley that everything grows, and there's a million different varieties of birds and butterflies and plants. And around here, there's things that grow that are like right now I'm looking at 5 different kinds of fruit that you can just eat right off of the trees. I can see oranges, mandarinas, mandarin oranges, a variety of níspero that our friend actually thought was camu camu. We have to learn a few more. There's limes, there's mangoes, just sort of everywhere, and fully ripe and ready to eat and just picked off the trees. Absolutely everything grows here. There's kind of a history of a long history that I've been learning for the past few years as I've taken trips in and out of the area, where it was all old forest, and then a lot of the colonial plants kind of came in with coffee and cacao and teas. So that kind of took over the land, and it was sort of clear-cut and monocultured from there. And then the Peruvian government did it sort of broke apart these big corporations that had taken over people's land, and it sort of gave the land back to the people. But at that point, there had already been generations and generations lost of farming. So there was a lot of like information lost and skills lost during those time periods. So then they started trying to give it back to the families to manage the part of the colonial plants. And The other thing is that not everybody was able to reclaim it because you kind of need certain paperwork to reclaim it, and not everybody had the skills because it's all like campesinos. And then there was also an enormous amount of people that moved to the cities, so to find people to give them back their land, and there were squabbles and fights with families and things like that. So that's the base of what I'm understanding. But there was also just a number of like the people that did stay. I guess there was a huge coffee famine. There was also a plague that came in that they had no idea what it was, which was actually diabetes, because at the same time Coca-Cola had kind of come in with gaseosa sodas, and there was just a ton of people getting diabetes and had no idea what it was, so it was getting treated like dengue. The doctors were like, we had no idea what this was, so they just tried to treat it with the information they had. And it's crazy because it's like this is during the generation where there is internet and there is access, but so few people had computers or access here. So 30 years when the States knew about diabetes and Western countries knew about diabetes and what caused it, it was just decimating communities. So this area has been through a lot, but it's still a lot of old forest, and there's definitely a lot of people kind of coming back through the last couple of years to return to nature and more simple life and growing again. So I just wanted to give you a little backstory on the area because it is really fascinating, and we definitely don't want to be coming in taking anyone's land that does not want to be given. We did make friends with many different people out here, really, really wonderful people that we've met so far that are really interested in kind of the skills and things that Eric and I have to bring, and are really interested in partnering. And these are old, like local Peruvian families that have just sort of held their land to make sure that they don't get mined or covered in chemicals. So even though they don't really have a ton of money, they've just always sort of kept the land. Where we are, there's also a ton of cinnamon growing, which is, it's maybe the sweetest, most incredible cinnamon I've ever had. You can actually take the leaves off and drink them as teas and things like that. So anyways, that's some of the backstory. We are staying at a existing eco project that works with a local university here in Lima that was basically like an engineering experimental zone for ecological projects. So they take on different projects to show biogas systems or water generation with water wheels or hydroelectric generation. So there's a lot of projects here with dehydrators built in little geodomes, and so they showcase different kinds of technology. And they also wanted to show people the kinds of plant varieties that exist here, because after the colonial sort of takeover, there was really almost a forgetfulness of how much could grow and what kind of varieties could grow. So they've been like collecting heirloom seeds and old plants and just showing kind of a test bed of what can grow here. So if you ask a lot of locals, they'll be like, oh yeah, fruit, citrus fruit, and like yucca grow here. But absolutely anything grows in this soil. It's like feet and feet of black earth with incredible streams that run through it. So it's just such fertile earth. So these guys have planted like 6 different kinds of bananas and 5 different kinds of avocados, and have vegetable gardens and things like that. So we were so lucky. It was just a project I had connected with years and years ago. And now we get to live here, which was great. And it just so happened to be next door neighbors with the little piece of land that we're renting, basically while we finalize purchase details. So we've been sort of offered 3 or 4 different places to purchase, but because we want to sit on the land and get to know it and really understand the backstory of it and see how it would work for our family, we just wanted to get out here, because the back and forth over the last few years with the family and taking care of dogs has been a lot. Plus, we just love the area. So we're renting with the family that is offering us the land. And so it's just been this kind of synchronistic magic thing that they just happen to be best friends with the ecological project. They just happen to be next door neighbors. They happen to have lots of support from the university. So there's like a full workshop here for Eric, and there's high-speed internet so that I'm able to work as well. We just got wildly, unbelievably lucky with how everything sort of clicked into place for our transition out here. It really blows my mind because all of these little interactions that I had over years all sort of coalesced and crystallized into working out just amazingly for our family move. So that's a little bit of backstory on, our relationships that we built and the seeds that we planted, and that we feel like we came out slowly and very respectfully to just get to know the area and get to know people and just connect and see. And then, the doors all kind of opened, and then there were some delays, but we moved about a week and a half ago, and we have just been sort of settling in because what does that mean? That means we had organized boxes because we knew that we were going to be going in like 3 phases. We've got like a storage unit at our friend's place, like up the hill, but it's like miles away. Then we're staying kind of temporarily here while we fix up the house that we're renting at. And then we've got long-term storage for when we actually move and build. So, we might not see that stuff or touch that stuff for years. I really don't know. So we were trying to, the slowdown actually helped us minimize and see what we really use day to day, which was very helpful and very necessary looking back. But in the move, as we had kind of organized things, we were just trying to get stuff out here and get, and the trucks were on a schedule, and it's rainy season, and it gets dark at like 5:00. So to try to get everything like loaded and through this crazy mountain pass, avoiding some of the torrential rains because they were just tarped trucks, and everything just kind of got thrown on as we were kind of cleaning up and closing out our old house and closing things out with the dueña. We're really big on leaving things more beautiful than we arrived, and making sure that we're very respectful of the agreements that we make with rentals. And so we put in a lot of things in the house. We fixed plumbing, we put in gardens, we put in garden beds, we fixed the stairs, we refinished the floors, and so we were able to give her place back to be able to rent it for a family and for more than we had it. So we just wanted to make sure that all of that was kind of closed out appropriately, handing off keys and cleaning things up and patching up walls. And there was actually a family that kind of came by who I'd been wanting to connect with for years, I think. Somebody said there was a really cool neighbor down the way, and we just never connected. And then they popped in right as the dueña was there, so we were able to just share information and introduce them to, set them up with a nice family home. Possibly, we'll see. But it was just a wild week of closing things out and bank accounts and booking trucks and packing stuff. And then in the meantime, we kind of ended up adopting another brother who sort of looks like Eric's little brother, and he was just looking for somewhat of an apprenticeship to learn from Eric, because Eric is a very skilled carpenter with an engineer in mind who's been studying and practicing eco-building and construction and all sorts of stuff, and he really wanted to be able to have the hands-on skills to be able to do that as well himself, whether with us or on his own. So he was just such a help when it comes to like physical box moving and moving things into 3 locations. It was really amazing to have him come out. And so he's been living in our little tiny home shed that like doesn't have windows and doesn't have a finished roof. It's got leaks and it doesn't connect to the walls. And so in a mosquito-y place, he's just been sleeping on a concrete floor and unfinished kind of dark little house that at some point we'll show pictures. In the whole move, I've lost a phone. I got a new phone. The phone was broken. I'm currently getting it fixed, so I have not been able to do pictures. We had our cameras stored away. We are having tech issues, all sorts of stuff. So this has been a lot about like tracking things down and figuring out. The first week was like figuring out how to feed ourselves here, because there was like a kitchen down the way, but we didn't have keys to it. And our friend who lives here, we just wanted to be respectful and not sort of take over his house. There's some bugs, and you can see I've got some little bites. So we were just trying to figure out how to feed ourselves and where things were and how to shower, finding towels and just basic things, and settle in and find each other's, boundaries and needs and new rhythms of living out here with weather, and take care of our kids and make sure that they've got activities and also aren't running into the jungle, sort of setting them up with some boundaries and new communications of like, look at all this space, but here's where we're going to explore for now until we can see that we can trust you and that you know your way around and you're comfortable. So we've got a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. Oh, Liam's actually now 5. But yeah, just making sure that we've got some established routines for them. And like the first night we had moved here, we got in late. The pack up took longer than we needed or than we expected. We need an extra truck, which took it to 4 trucks over weeks. We were setting up some temporary fencing for the dogs to get them established so they weren't just like running and killing people's chickens as a welcome to the jungle. And we just have been going through all of those steps. So there's lots more updates, but my little boys just came back from the other house and they are pulling up in the wheelbarrow. So I will bid you adieu. That's kind of the update. We are here. We're safe. And we've got a few mosquito bites, but I think everybody's pretty happy. How do you guys like the jungle? You got in the wheelbarrow.
Well,
yeah, we like it.
Talking.
I'm just sharing some updates with people. Should we say love from Peru?
No.
Okay. Love from Peru. Bye.